February is full of flowers, candy, and lots of talk about relationships. No matter where you are, you're right on time. Visit betterhelp.com/super for 10% off today. Hey, brother! Oh boy, here we go. What a question. What if Snape was sorted into Gryffindor house? Honestly, I feel like this one is not asked nearly enough, given the sheer supporting evidence from the characters in the series directly suggesting this possibility. And I'm sure that a lot of that comes from the fact that Snape's secretive nature and triple agent status means it's not really until the very end of the story that we learn what he's been up to and what has been motivating him for all of Harry's life. And by the time we learn most of Snape's character, it's too late to do much else with it. Plus, his position as head of Slytherin House and largely serving as Harry's living, breathing antithesis makes it complicated to think of him as anywhere else, really. But of course, as we all know, Harry does come around in the end.
You were named after 2 headmasters of Hogwarts. One of them was a Slytherin, and he was the bravest man I've ever known.
And Harry alone is a massive endorsement, but when witnessing The Prince's Tale, Harry also sees that Dumbledore shares this same belief when he says, "And are you tempted to join him? No, I am not such a coward." "No," agreed Dumbledore. "You are a braver man by far than Igor Karkaroff. You know, I sometimes think we sort too soon." Then also, when you think back about Snape, even as an 11-year-old, we know from Sirius that he was infatuated with the dark arts, but I'd argue that there was a greater motivator when it comes to the sorting ceremony. Lily.
Obviously.
It's almost curious that Snape doesn't end up in Gryffindor house, because Lily is sorted first, meaning Snape could theoretically ask the Hat to do the same. And if Snape's true character eventually yields underlying Gryffindor traits anyway, potential that the Hat should have been able to spot a mile away, plus his own desire to follow Lily, it almost requires a world where Snape actually asked it not to place him in Gryffindor. Which makes sense due to him because of the alphabet. Not only does E for Evans come before S for Snape, but so does B for Black, as in Sirius, L for Lupin, and most significantly, P for Potter. This almost just must be what happened, because Snape is also not a pureblood. His residence in Slytherin kind of runs counter to his earliest allegiances, his closest friendship, and his ultimate nature. So today we ask the question, what if Snape was sorted into Gryffindor? Hey, brother. What's crazy is that Snape's experience heading towards the sorting is actually very similar to Harry's, just in reverse. As Harry enters the wizarding world, he begins almost at once to hear snippets about Slytherin from Hagrid, Draco, and Ron, all of whom give it the very foul impression, and by the time Harry gets to the Hat, it's all but ready to put him in Slytherin until he asks it not to, and so...
Better be... Gryffindor!
Boy, can you imagine if he was in Slytherin though, because we did. Extensively. Snape, on the other hand, finds himself in the exact opposite situation. Aboard the train, he actually wants to be in Slytherin to begin with, even telling Lily, "You'd better be in Slytherin," said Snape, encouraged that she had brightened a little. And while he hears nothing but good things about Gryffindor, the source of the information is the as-of-yet unformed Marauders who waste no time in making enemies with Snape. "Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart, like my dad." Snape made a small, disparaging noise. James turned on him. "Got a problem with that?" "No," said Snape, though his slight sneer said otherwise. "If you'd rather be brawny than brainy." "Where are you hoping to go, seeing as you're neither?" interjected Sirius. Maybe more like, "Where are you hoping to go, seeing as you're neither?" Like to think that 11-year-old Sirius was already super deep voiced. But do you see what I mean? He's already looking down on Gryffindor, and Sirius and James do nothing but reinforce what he thinks about the house ahead of time. And yet, Dumbledore and us the readers know that Snape is a very brave person and loves Lily. Those two single facts are amongst the two most important in the whole darn story. Snape's tragic flaw is that when sort comes to shove, that he lets his hatred of James surpass his love of Lily and almost must ask to be in a house that James is not in. But what if he hadn't and ended up where Dumbledore thinks he belonged in the first place? In Gryffindor. Question number 1 almost certainly has to do with this dormitory situation, because right away this would mean that Snape is rounding off a group of 5. James, Sirius, Remus, Peter, and now Severus. How is this going to go? Because, like, is Severus more likely to become pals with the Marauders because of sheer proximity? Would Severus somehow replace Peter in, like, a lineup of 4? Or does the rivalry between James and Snape when they have to stand next to each other versus against each other somehow make it even more heated? Because if you ask me, those are, like, the 3 options that we have. So hear me out. I think that despite the initial argument on the train, there's just no way the 5 of them are not friends. I mean, for one, Sirius and James quickly look past Remus's werewolf issue and accept him like no questions asked. Plus, the even more darning thing is the fact that they accept Peter as a friend at all when he's the worst person ever. Plus, Snape is like, really good at magic and friends with Lily, who James likes. Snape, honestly, is just in a way better position all around to have a very rewarding time at Hogwarts. He's very likely a member of the Marauders and therefore also becomes an animagus, whose form you can debate if you'd like, but there are like an umpteen zillion references to him as a bat, so I'm going with bat.
I'm a bat.
The real question is, what is his Marauder name? Squeaky? Echo? Bug Breath? I like Echo. Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, Echo, and Prongs are proud to present the Marauders map. Not gonna lie, I really don't hate it. It's kind of cool. And what adventures they had too, right? Remember the time Echo swooped down and carried Mouse Butt to the top of a tree, but then Moon Man lost control a bit and we had to go save that muggle and nobody remembered Peter till the next morning? Ha! Good times, good times. Peter fell out of the tree and hit every branch on the way down and broke his arm and nobody cared. But with their time at Hogwarts being changed in this way, there are some major questions to consider. Typically, you'd have the Marauders on one side, and in a way, Lily and Snape's friendship on the other. James has some ins with Lily because they're fellow Gryffindors. Snape has his lasting childhood friendship that usually holds them together well past some excuse making by Lily on Snape's behalf. It's too late. I've made excuses for you for years. None of my friends can even understand why I talk to you. You and your precious little Death Eater friends. You see, you don't even deny it. You don't even deny that's what you're all aiming to be. But how does it go this time when James and Severus are actually friends? Well, as is so often the case with the What If, we need prophecies to do what they are supposed to do. To change those changes the story too dramatically for us to realistically follow the thread. And because Harry being alive is central to the most significant prophecy, Lily must end up with James. The question is, how does Severus react? Happy for his friends? Same old jealousy? Turn to the dark side? Well, not so jealousy go to Voldemort or anything, but maybe just can't really be a part of the group anymore because it's just so hard. But if Snape is not in Voldemort's camp, that brings up an immediate fork in the story. Does Voldemort ever learn of the prophecy? Snape is usually the one who overhears Trelawney and reports it all back to Voldemort, thus setting into motion the entire plot. But don't forget, there's another spy in the Order, isn't there? One who Dumbledore doesn't know has a secret animagus form. Wormbutt. Peter Pettigrew.
I didn't mean to.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yo, we need to pause right there to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Shopify. Let's talk about hindsight for a second, because after you know the outcome of an idea, it always seems to fill in many of the blanks of doubt that you may have had beforehand. Like doing this very show, there came a day when we were like, do we make all fandom content? In case you didn't know, we used to not always do that. And the best part is that it feels crazy to have ever asked the question in the first place, standing where we are now. But that pause beforehand can sometimes be enough to stop you from ever trying. But that's why I love Shopify, especially for folks looking to jump into new waters, because Shopify takes so much guesswork out of it. They've got easy to use templates that can get you a gorgeous looking website in no time, and knocking down that early unknown is a major obstacle in your journey towards launching your business. But then from there, Shopify is built to scale, so whether you're taking a few orders a week or requiring your own dedicated loading dock to meet fulfillment, they can handle it. Y'all, it is time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/SCB. Again, go to shopify.com/SCB. One last time for safety, shopify.com/SCB. Link in the description down below. Now, back to the video. But as you can imagine, spying on Dumbledore is a big job, and without Snape around, or honestly even with him around, a great candidate to do it is Peter, who can transform into a rat, a form which he can easily stick around and overhear, not just a little bit, but the entire prophecy.
Dun dun dun!
If you recall, this is Voldemort's #1 plan for all of Order of the Phoenix, and his goal is attempting to learn the details he doesn't usually get from Snape in the first place. What he's usually missing isn't as useful as he may hope at the end of Book 5, but it would have been vital to know before attacking Harry in the first place, because the part he doesn't normally hear says this.
And the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not, and neither must die at the hand of the other, neither can live while the other survives.
So if Peter hears all of this and relays it to Voldemort, what does he do then? Because I'm quite sure he's not going to be quick to mark someone as his equal.
You're telling me what will happen? I will have an equal?
By the way, if you couldn't tell, it started raining. Dang it. So what does Voldemort do? Well, we actually have an in-universe guess from none other than Harry and Dumbledore. Why did he do it then? Why did he try to kill me as a baby? He should have waited to see whether Neville or I looked more dangerous when we were older and tried to kill whoever it was then. That might indeed have been the more practical course. Voldemort never knew that there might be danger in attacking you, that it might be wise to wait or to learn more. He did not know that you would have power the Dark Lord knows not. So there are pretty much two huge takeaways from the plot being where it is at this point. One is that Dumbledore will still know that Neville and Harry are the two candidates that could represent the prophecy. And two, Voldemort is far more likely to exercise caution if he knows that he will be marking his equal in whoever he attacks, but also not likely to believe any such nonsense that this chosen one will have power the Dark Lord knows not. He's just too arrogant for that. So, Fidelia's charms are back on the menu. We know who to protect and we know how to protect them. But when it comes to securing a secret keeper for the Potters, guess who all of a sudden is a great candidate given his far closer relationship not just to James, but also Lily? Yeah, Snape. It makes perfect sense. They choose someone who matters to both of them. And good news, he's an excellent secret keeper. Who knew?
Obviously.
Actually, probably everyone. Secrets are kind of Snape's jam. Like if there was like a farmer's market, you know, Snape would have like his secret jam recipe but you know, it's not like he's selling like the recipe itself, but the jam has a secret recipe, so you know what? Like, I mean, what is jam if not a muggle potion? Am I right? Truth is he's cheating because the secret ingredient is magic and that's not fair. But Peter knows this, not the jam part, but that Snape's secret keeper. And therefore, Peter can relay back to the Dark Lord that there is no penetrating the protections. The Potters are completely safe. However, Peter is nothing if not conniving and has a slightly different idea as to how to make the Potters and Longbottoms come out of hiding. A way for Voldemort to observe the boys until he can decide who the real threat is. A false fall. The world is to believe the Dark Lord has been defeated by Peter Pettigrew. And I know, right? Look, how likely is that? Peter. Guy sucks. But for the plot's sake, it's a pretty solid plan, as Peter is also in the Order of the Phoenix, so under pretense of hunting down the Potter's friends to try to locate their hiding place, Voldemort himself corners Peter in the middle of a crowded street. There are dozens of witnesses, and by all appearances, Peter is a goner, until little Peter gets the better of Voldemort. The street is blasted apart, killing dozens, and all they ever find of Voldemort is his finger. Wow. It's the finger. Yeah. Peter has one move. Sorry. Peter has one move.
That was good.
And so Peter defeats Voldemort? That is certainly what the world believes. All the people Voldemort had under the Imperius Curse return to normal. The Death Eaters scatter and parties break out in the wizarding world all over the country. Muggle news reports are all the country's ornithologists are baffled by the behavior of the owls. Owls! But of course, all is not well. The other Death Eaters are not in this most secret plan of Peter and Voldemort's, and as such, behave as they usually do afterwards, meaning Neville's parents are still attacked by the Lestrange gang. Or as I like to call them, the Lestrange gang, you know what I'm saying? You know, yeah, those guys. Makes them sound more fun. They are not fun. No.
No.
I kill Sirius Black.
And as a result, Neville is raised as the kind of bumbling boy that we know him to be, and as far as Voldemort is concerned, not the threat he is worried about.
Why is it always me?
And settles on young Harry as his target. But in order to observe the boys for the maximum amount of time available, he plans to attack Harry before he leaves for Hogwarts, thus making him as old as he can be without having had any proper education. The hitch is that despite the apparent safety of the last 10 years, the Fidelius charm is still in effect at the Potter's house, being held in place by the original secret keeper, Snape. And after the attack on the Longbottoms, he insisted on remaining the secret keeper even if the Potters did not seem to be in any immediate threat, which doesn't mean they can't ever leave or go anywhere, just that as long as they are at home, they cannot be found. But where others see a hitch, Voldemort sees an opportunity. The Potter's home is now the perfect place for his return. He can kill the boy and the parents, and nobody will ever be able to find their bodies. He just needs the location. Enter, again, the war hero, Wormtail. Wormtail invites Snape out for a drink, and the two reminisce the evening away, retelling old Marauder tales and times they were almost caught, James and Lily's wedding. And Padfoot forgot the rings, and nobody could find them, but then you saved the day. Well, I remembered he became a dog the night before, and the rings in his pocket, and must have lost them in the transformation, and their house was just across the street from the church, so I... Snape never finishes the sentence, but it's too late. He sees a flash of yellow in Peter's eyes and bores into them. The truth dawns on him just before Peter shouts, "Stupefy." Snape is only out for a few minutes, but when he comes around, Peter is nowhere to be seen. How could he have been so stupid? Peter, a hero indeed. Lily, he shouts to himself, and he's off. Minutes later, he is banging down the door of the Potters. James answers. Echo, everything all right? He's trying to calm Snape down, who is speaking nonsense, and of course reeks of alcohol. Peter, betrayed. Voldemort, not gone. You have to leave. Lily! James opens the door and lets Snape step inside in front of him, but before he can step back through himself, James' lifeless body falls across the threshold into the house. Snape turns and screams. Lily comes running down the stairs. Run! Take Harry and run! Snape shouts at her, and she sees Voldemort and runs back to Harry's room. Voldemort enters the house and Snape pleads with him. Please, I'll do anything. Don't kill her. Voldemort considers him for a moment and then blasts Snape unconscious for the second time that night and proceeds up the stairs. And you know what happens. Lily dies defending Harry. Meanwhile, Harry is simply sitting on the edge of his bed, broomstick across his lap as Voldemort enters the room. Not even 11, he doesn't scream or run. His green eyes just stare reflected in the red of Voldemort's, who draws his wand. A silver finger glimmers on one hand. But it doesn't work. Voldemort gets blasted by his own stupid spell and goes all misty, as usual. But the events of the night are not over. Peter made more than one visit, and now Remus and Sirius have arrived at the destroyed Potter house. Voldemort nowhere to be seen, James and Lily dead, and Snape, alive, drunk, and emerging from the wreckage. What have you done? Sirius bellows at him. Sirius, Voldemort, Peter, I didn't mean. Peter says you attacked him, says you came to claim what was yours. You never forgave him, did you? Never forgave him for marrying Lily. It wasn't me! Voldemort is back! Peter betrayed! Snape catches sight of Peter, who has now arrived on scene behind Sirius. I told you, Padfoot, I told you he was raving. He killed them all! Harry's alive! Lupin calls down from the second floor. He's alive! Peter looks horrified. This wasn't part of the plan. Harry is supposed to be dead, but in his moment of concern, he's lost track of Snape. He looks back, but he's gone. Then, swooping from the sky, transforming out of his bat form, Snape descends on Peter. Wand drawn, he shouts, Avada Kedavra! Peter is dead. Snape lets out a mirthless laugh as Remus and Sirius disarm him. Less than a day later, the cell door clangs shut as Snape ignores the wailing cries of his Azkaban neighbors, the distant sound of Lily Potter's last screams echoing in his head. And that is what happens if Snape is sorted into Gryffindor. Or at least part of it. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. As ever, we have so much fun with these what ifs, so let us know any thoughts you have about Snape being a Gryffindor in the towel section down below. If you'd like to see what would have happened if Harry was sorted into Slytherin, we have like an 8-part mega series where we go into excruciating detail. You can check that out right over here. But otherwise, until next time, don't forget, ducks go in cups.